Hello, you're watching Our Money, a program on corruption investigations. My name is Bihus, and I want to tell you that there's nothing sweeter than having a monopoly, even a small-scale one, but it must be legally and administratively entrenched. Sometimes I even think that people who make these little monopolies are not doing it for the money. It must be something psychological, some hidden inner desire. I have almost no doubt that choosing between a small monopoly and a big but competitive business, they choose. Anyway, in 2011, the cabinet of ministers under Azarov created the prerequisites for the emergence of an educational monopoly in a small but important sector. In 2014, after the revolution, this idea was further developed. Ultimately, the certificates of all professional architects came to depend on a single company. The scheme is far from rocket science. Once every 5 years, all architects must pass a refresher course, thanks to Azarov. Basically, they have to get familiar with all the legal innovations that every practicing architect already knows about. But the course is very important. Firstly, those who don't pass the course lose the certificate. Secondly, they're fee-based. And thirdly, you can pass it in a single place only. Next, Nadia Burde. Mariinsky Palace, by the architect Francisco Rastrelli. Five-star Hilton Hotel, by the architect John Seifert. The House with Chamaras, by the architect Vladislav Horodetsky. An ordinary high-rise, by the architect Oleg Melnik. A box-like house or a landmark, an office, a hotel. There's an architect behind each of them. When we made this building, we made a construction diary on the internet. People got interested. It gathered around 1.5 or 2 million views. Oleg Rechu, an architect, he tells us about what every building begins with. It was created to show what I talked about, that there's a bearing wall, it's central, it's glued in a way to be visible. You have to go a long way to become an architect. Get a degree in a university, long internships, 3 years of practice. Only then the architect gets the right to pass a special certification, take the exams, and get the certificate. The right to private practice. The state architectural inspection doesn't consider projects by uncertified architects. If an architect has studied for 6 years, gets his 5 or something projects approved, gets all the recommendations, fulfills all the conditions, passes the certification exam, how many times does one have to confirm their competence? But the certificate you get after 8 years is valid for only 5. After 5 years of practice, the architects are forced to go through a refresher course. Basically, a couple of classes on innovations in construction legislature. Adaptation according to changes is legal regulations, the things that the architects themselves may overlook, being the busy people they are, so it is very important. Architects are skeptical about the benefits of such classes, but without going through them, their certifications would be cancelled. The demand for the refresher course is legislated. This is not an architect's market demand. Some of my colleagues told me they were just going to pay for the certificate. Like it or not, you have to take the refresher course. Otherwise, your certificate will be cancelled, and you will be unemployed. But where to go? Self-education is not an option. It would be logical to go to a school, but that is not an option either. A monopoly was created on the forced education of every Ukrainian architect. Everyone gets sent to a single private company. They gave me 2 documents, an application and another one to the head of the LLC Training and Expertise Company of the National Union of Ukrainian Architects. In 2 months, Oleg Rachu's certificate will expire. The Union of Architects has directed him to their mandatory private company. The exams I took to get the certificates were held in the same limited liability company. The scheme was neither today nor yesterday, but has been around for at least 6 or 7 years. Did they give the certificate? Yes, this exact organization issued them. There weren't any other options on the table. The scheme was created back in 2011. Azarov's cabinet of ministers decided that architects and engineers must get certified by the Ministry of Regional Development and Building. The ministry delegated this to 4 civil organizations. The organizations directed everyone to their private companies. This is direct coercion. People are forced to pay whom they're told to. Pay for the certificate and you can work undisturbed for 5 years. But then you'll have to pay again. Every 5 years, the architects have to take the refresher course, and they can do it in a single private company exclusively. The private company is a technical company which we use to conduct payments. Let's end with this question. Some architects tried taking a refresher course in architectural higher education institutions. A refresher course is educational activity. Who conducts educational activities? Educational institutions. We contacted one, they said they had a license. But the certificates issued there were not recognized by the union. While the company is a monopoly of the union, it rents a classroom in a university, invites the professors of that university, and places its own price tag. At the academy, we had a 10-day course, 72 hours of learning. A coworker called me and said, "Sergey, in the same classroom, with the same professors, it took me 3 days to get the document." The monopoly results in a twice shorter course, with 5 times the price. The academy takes $75, while the union takes $375. The universities could train the architects by themselves. Volodymyr Husakov, the president of the Union of Architects, admits that the only thing that prevents the universities from handling this is the union itself. The universities have refresher course departments. That is the Kyiv Civil Engineering University, Kharkiv, Dnipro, Odessa, Lviv Polytechnic. They have the licenses, but they can do it only if we allow them, if they will work according to our curriculum. Did you give the right to any of them? No, to none of them, because the number of architects in need of a refresher course is not sufficiently high to distribute them. So you have a monopoly, is this correct? Something like that. The president of the Union of Architects has no problem with all the architects in the country paying his private company. What if a person wants to take the course at a university? Well, for now we are doing this, and we think that currently we don't need anyone else. We're good. You've created a monopoly. The architects have no choice. Why do they need choice? In total, the refresher course must be taken by more than 29,000 architects and engineers. Each of them will pay up to $380. Overall, they will earn more than $7.6 million in 5 years. Really, why do they need choice? The scheme works. It's very lucrative. It's planned economy, so to say. 1/5 of the certified people have to pay each year. It's planned for. Someone has already counted the money. After numerous complaints from architects, the ministry noticed the problem. Now they promise to destroy the monopoly. The issue is the absence of options. We want to change the system now. Firstly, I'll tell you a secret ahead of time, that we're going to get the registration privileges back to the ministry. We won't give rights to one single organization. There will be a market, there will be competition. While the deputy minister was telling us his plans on the future, the market, and the competition, that same day, in the same building, the union was telling an architect which private company he must pay for the refresher course. Attention! A premiere. Usually our program is about most important nationwide topics. Well, that's because our subjects are mostly in Kyiv. But sometimes we get complaints about being too focused on the problems in the capital, while things are really bad in the regions. This is fair, so we have teamed up with our colleagues from several regions to begin our new series of regional investigations of regional realities. Today, we will talk about the restoration of Donetsk region. This story proves that misery stems not only from lack of money, because $114 million were allocated to restore the region's infrastructure. That's great. A third was instantly given to restore schools. That's incredible. 38 million of which must be spent on repairs, ASAP. What could go wrong? Now, Alexander Kurbatov. And we shall be masters in our own home. September 1st, Donetsk region. President Poroshenko is at an opening ceremony of a restored school in Pokrovsk. Two more Donbas schools in Druzhkivka and Chasiv Yar are on the line. They are celebrating too. We will continue building a peaceful life in Donbas, restoring the infrastructure destroyed by war, rebuilding roads. In fact, there had to be 30 schools like this, but the other restoration sites aren't in a holiday mood. The president won't go there. A year ago, these school children studied at the best school in Donetsk region, the Ukrainian gymnasium of Kramatorsk. Grandchildren of Anatoly Bliznyuk, the region's ex-governor, studied there, and the children of Maxim Yefimov, an MP from PPB, one of the richest Kramatorsk residents. But today, the gymnasium is closed, its teachers and pupils dispersed among regional schools. We were given these classrooms, where only our students of 9th, 10th, and 11th grade study. The gymnasium had the best furniture, the best equipment, the best library, gathered all over the region. Now the books share a room with a workshop. The literature is stored here. There is some access to the books if anyone needs a specific one. You see, there are workbenches there, so we have to deal with it. Thank God for what we have. Why is the best school of the region in ruins and its students studying at other schools? Unfulfilled promises. In 2016, the Donetsk region received an additional $100 million. More than $40 million were instantly allocated to restore 30 schools, even those that didn't require any restoration. They were so eager to implement the $40 million that they made subpar projects and paralyzed the educational process. Every project has problems, but while some require 20% adjustment, others require 80%. For $40 million, the 30 schools were to be made into hub-level schools, to become the central schools of the region. But the Kramatorsk Educational Authority wasn't told what the hub schools must look like, and the authority did not explain it to the project teams. We didn't have the experience to know what should be inside a hub school. We'd never seen one. The authors of the project couldn't foresee that either. For example, the chemistry classroom must have drains for liquid at every workplace. Let's Google chemistry classroom in Ukraine. You won't believe this. Taps and drains at every desk. This is the gymnasium before restoration. It had the same drains before restoration. After that, though, it lacked even the usual power sockets. Physics classrooms must also be equipped with a place to plug computers in, because the equipment already bought by the Education Department of the Donetsk Regional State Administration calls for every desk to have sockets. The gymnasium restoration project provided for $1.5 million of interior work, replacement of floors, radiators, doors, furniture. But the parents of gymnasium students tell us that all that was already new. We've replaced windows for our children. We made them really good. 3-chamber windows. Contractors made the reveals, covered the floors with linoleum to get rid of the dust. We also replaced the doors. We found some sponsors. They installed us some really nice doors. The administration worked with the sponsors. They made visits. Everything was fine. The hardest part was the roof. It was too tough for the parents. The administration had to do that. Right before a major interior overhaul, the gymnasium had barely survived the insulation of the facade and the roof for $420,000. The money was used up, while the roof was still leaking. The classrooms got constantly flooded. We needed a major repair of the roof. Insulating it made no sense. It was leaking. The newly insulated facade got all cracked. The contractors said they did everything according to technical regulations. The technology is as follows: insulation, then glued mesh, then filler number 29, then decorative plaster, and finally paint. But the parents and teachers are sure that it was constructed improperly. They saw it with their own eyes. The panels number 100 weren't properly installed on the wall plugs. That's why they got deformed and cracked. The mesh peeks out from under the bright paint all over the building. Is this another wall? Yes, it is. It's another side of the facade. It's not secured properly. It's loose. Do you see it? Yeah. The entire facade is like that. It's all loose. The Kramatorsk prosecutor's office even began to investigate the results of this restoration. The international fund which gave the money has no issue with the contractors. What is done is done. The funding organization has no questions. The following jobs were done poorly: installation of windows and doors, the rainwater drainage system, painting of the facade. The failed jobs were partly redone by the contractor. The sad experience of previous jobs wasn't accounted for in the next ones. The problem with using $1.6 million started from the initial competition. It was held twice. There was an appeal to the anti-monopoly company, and it canceled this bidding. After that, we initiated again on Prozoro. 4 companies competed for the $1.6 million of restoration money. One of them was Favorite Opt, owned by the family of a PPB MP, Borislav Rosenblatt. It lost the bidding through its high prices, filed an appeal to the anti-monopoly company, and asked to cancel the competition. You know, I don't know who did what. I only know that this is the job of the company's head. I just knew this situation, so I answered his call. The competition was canceled and restarted. The winner of the first one refused to continue fighting, and the Rosenblatts won. One of the additional conditions they put as their advantage was no payment up front. Head of Donetsk Regional Administration tells that the winner had practically cheated. They didn't require to be paid up front during the bidding, but refused to start working without money after they'd won. They didn't start working for a while, demanding upfront payment, which we couldn't make because of the contract which said no upfront payment. Favorite Opt contracted its bidding competitors to work at the site. The state regional administration says that the work was in fact conducted by the BK Kraminskbud company, with close ties to Rosenblatt's fellow party member, an MP from Kramatorsk, Maxim Yefimov. Failing to be paid up front, Rosenblatt's company stopped working. Now it demands $266,000 that it says the customer owes it. Thus, the unneeded and very expensive renovation decisively paralyzed the gymnasium's work. We have lost a lot. We used to have a drama circle at the gymnasium. There were a lot of sections where children could pursue their hobbies after classes. They are now all deprived of that. Out of 30 schools in Donbas that the $40 million were allocated to restore, only 9 are operational now. The others suffer the same the Kramatorsk Gymnasium did. Its fate was decided on another, third competition. This time, the cost of the restoration was increased by $420 more. Thus, the restoration of the Donetsk region changes its appearance here, from an ambitious project to a black hole, which can devour any amount of money it gets. That's it for today. You can watch any of our episodes on our YouTube channel, write us on social media, and if you have an interesting topic, feel free to email us. See you on air in a week. Goodbye.
На електронну пошту. В телеефірі побачимось вже за тиждень. До зустрічі.